Welcome to Mint Views. The government of India is apparently thinking of tightening its norms to regulate social media, the moderation that is required in social media in the wake of the Delhi riots. Is this good? Do we need tighter controls on what's happening on social media? Does this infringe privacy? Or is this a good way to actually temper down some of the bad stuff we've seen appearing online? We all know the role played by social media in flaring up tempers on either side of the religious divide, and worse, when communal tensions rise, something needs to be done. Is this what needs to be done? That's what we're going to talk about today. And Shrija, can you tell us what's happening here?
Sure, Aish. So with the proliferation of internet and smartphones, we've seen how the new age media, social media has actually given the voice to the people, right? And given the increasing trends of hate crimes that we are seeing, witnessing around the world, not just in India, you talk in the US, in the European Union, we find almost social media has become a weapon or an instrument for, fringe elements to sort of spread their message of hatred, incitement, and the consequences of it is also, like, we've seen the consequences, they're so negative, right? I mean, they can mobilize people and in turn result in disastrous actions, result in atrocities, and we have seen lynchings happening as a result of that. So definitely the same technology that can give you a voice of expression in democracy and can actually allow you to speak freely can also prove counterintuitive.
Do we need to make a distinction here between open platforms like Twitter and Facebook and closed platforms, which are actually private platforms like WhatsApp, which are actually encrypted? How do we distinguish between these? Because much of the menace is across all these platforms. Srijay, what do you think?
I totally agree with you. I mean, social media has been a powerful tool both for positive as well as negative messaging. But in the instant case where the government is planning to issue more stringent guidelines to monitor content on social media, I would see it more of a scapegoating of social media itself. Why can't the government, the authorities, crack down on people who are actually spreading hate, instead of cracking down or trying to regulate and crimp the ability of social media, which is actually a medium for conversation? To actually, why is the government trying to inhibit its ability to be an open platform where people can have all kinds of conversation, but at the same time cracking down on people who are spreading hate? The government should be actually cracking down on such people, not the medium itself.
So you're saying they're trying to shoot the messenger here. What do you think, Anand?
I think I slightly disagree with what Srijay is saying. The reason being that, the potency of the messages that these motor mouths are conveying, that potency comes because of the abilities of social media to spread that message very fast across a wide section of our society. So until you clamp down on the medium also to a certain extent, you won't be able to stop the proliferation of that particular message, and that can be very damaging to society. So I agree with him that you have to come down very heavily on such people who spread hate messages, but you also need to make sure that the systems are in place so that once it is there in the social media, you are able to keep a check on it or contain it somehow.
Mm-hmm. And Shrija, what do you think about this? Is it the people who are the problem and what's going on inside their heads, all the hatred, or is it actually the medium that is the problem?
Also, Arish, there's a specific algorithm which also works in social media, and I would actually agree with Anand in the point that regulators need to have, I wouldn't say an oversight, but some sort of measures in place, because, with these algorithms, what they do is they often target people, and the Facebook and other sort of platforms, they monetize these ads and these ads directed at targeted audiences, right? So they also help you to find certain groups where you can have certain discussions. So because they also, for them, it helps them to earn the revenue by the amount of time you spend in viewing their content. Maybe the medium also needs to be effectively checked and kept in checks and balances rather than just the people.
I think the fear that is there right now is that would we be exceeding our limits in trying to regulate the social media? That is the concern. But of course, that also needs to be made sure that you don't over exceed the kind of checks that you put. You shouldn't be constraining it and making it absolutely subservient to the law in a way that it is not able to function properly, or it compromises on issues such as privacy. So that also needs to be taken care of.
We mustn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Is that the point you'd like to make, Srijay?
Yeah, I think if the administration, if the authorities can make an example out of people who spread fake news or hate speech, I think that would go a long way in kind of chilling such kind of a phenomenon, and setting out stringent guidelines would actually not help, because then how do you allow conversations to happen online?
Now, the unfortunate part is that in this particular meeting, the Delhi police has cited several instances, reportedly cited several instances, where the social media have not reacted promptly to their messages to pull down certain, inflammatory content. So there is certainly a case to bring about certain regulations that make enforcement much more tighter. But of course, the concerns also need to be taken care of.
Where the exact balance lies is a bit difficult to assess. Much of it would require everyone to actually believe that the government is acting fairly in the way it wants social media to be regulated. If there's a slightest sense that there's a partisan approach to the way this is being done, it will actually perhaps create more harm than good. That's one aspect. The other aspect is, as Srijay has been pointing out, that where hate comes from is not from social media, it's not technology. There are other things that are rousing this hatred that we see all around us. What do we do about that? That's the fundamental question. We need to address that. Thank you.